Hi, welcome back to the PARCC assessment tutorials. Our last tutorial we left off with looking at the different questions that are found on the non-calculator part of the math PARCC assessment. And in that tutorial I didn't answer the questions because we were just actually highlighting the different types of questions and how to navigate them. So you'll notice here I'm at the end of that non-calculator part, and I want to go on to the calculator part, which is section 2, but it says that I haven't answered 21 questions. If a student happens to click continue, that warning sign will come up that says once you leave this you will not be able to return. So that means any questions they did not answer would then be unscorable and they would receive no credit for those. So it's very important that schools and teachers make sure that when students are finishing up a section of the test that they double check to make sure the student has all of the questions answered to the best of their ability, and that they do not click this yes button until they have all of those questions completed. So that's just something that teachers and school districts need to make sure they're familiar with. Again, if they say no, then they can go back and answer those questions. But if they say yes, it goes on to the next section, and then those others unanswered questions would not be scored, or they would be scored as a 0. So now we're to the calculator part. This tutorial is not going to be quite as long because it just kind of lets you see what the calculator tool looks like and how to navigate that tool, because the questions in this section are much similar to the non-calculator questions that we went over in the previous tutorial. So we start the section. So now we have a question. Again, looks very similar to some of the other questions we've seen in the other tutorials. It is a drop-down menu where they would select the correct answer from the drop-down menus, and then the part B would just be entering it using the keyboard or the keypad. But here is where the students can actually make the calculation on the calculator, because this is an allowable calculator part. Here are the tools again that are available to the student, and this is the calculator tool. So when that opens up, it opens the calculator tool that then allows them to use the calculator just like they would on any real calculator or actual calculator they would have with them. One note that schools and teachers need to make sure that they understand is that it is allowable for students to have an external calculator during these calculator part or sections of the test. However, those calculators must comply with the PARCC calculator policy that outlines what calculators are appropriate and allowable for each of the different grade levels, because they do change based on grade levels. So I would encourage you, if you are going to allow students to use an external calculator for these calculator part of the assessments, that you check the PARCC assessment calculator policies to make sure that you allow them to have the correct calculator in front of them. It's also important that if you use some of the scientific calculators at the higher grade levels for the end of course exams like algebra and algebra 2 and geometry, that some in the calculator policy it does state that the memories have to be cleared from those, because they do have the ability to store different types of data and information. So that is the school and the teacher or the test proctor's responsibility to do that. So that's something that you also need to be aware of if you're going to use external calculators. So once they're finished with the calculator, they just simply click close. They can move on to the next question. Again, these are all based on a calculation using some of this information here. They would just open the calculator again, type their equation in they want to solve, and then enter obviously the boxes with the correct answer based on the different part of the questions. So really, as you navigate through here, this one just allows them to do some calculations and then put a point on a grid. And as I flip through some of these questions, I just want to make sure you understand that these questions look very similar to the non-calculator parts. that we went over in the other tutorial. Just entering the box with the number pad. Might be, here's a select all that apply. So again, we're talking about selecting more than one. And then again, with the equation editor, entering the answer with the keypad, all very similar to what we've seen before in the other one. So if you want to see more about the different types of questions and how to answer them and how to navigate those different types of questions, I encourage you to look at the non-calculator tutorial. That's where we went over most of these in a little bit more detail. So this is the calculator portion, again allowing them to use the calculator in from the toolbar because it is allowable in this part of the test. They would go and navigate the rest of the questions. Again, here I'm only on 8 of 13, so I would continue to go through until I reach the end of that session. And once I do, it will allow me to either review my answers or submit the final answer. So again, this is the tutorial on using the calculator tool, part of the calculator section on the Math PARCC assessment. Again, thank you for watching this PARCC tutorial.